Right, so we're down in the Coventry Basin, and we're just about to push off north again, and it's, you know, sort of a long day. We're going to try and push up towards Faisley Junction. Not going to get anywhere near there, but we're going to push in that direction. Kind of a funny morning. We had a bit of a miscommunication. Joe went to take and walk George, and I got everything ready, engine, you know, set, fire, extinguished, ash into the box at the front and everything. Well, fire was already extinguished, but the ash into the box at the front. And I lost a set of keys, couldn't find them, so I left the liquids tanks sitting on the front of the boat and was like ready to run them after George got back, and with Joe, and we got him his food. And then I found the extra set of keys because, of course, I just misplaced them underneath something Joe had cleaned up on top of them, but it was my fault. I replaced them, misplaced them. Anyway, went over, did the urine, came back, and realized that we hadn't communicated about the fact that I thought the fire was supposed to be off, and she thought the fire was supposed to be going, and so I saw a bunch of smoke billowing out from under a little overturned sauce pot. So I started running back, but Joe had already figured it out. So now we have a nice pumping chimney going, and no sauce pot. Oh. So off up the Coventry Basin. Well, out of the Coventry Basin, and towards probably Nuneaton today. So we didn't stop in Coventry to get water. Instead, we stopped here in Hawkesbury Junction to get some water. And speaking of users of water, we just got passed by, it's a little bit hard to see there, but that's Hasty, a large steam-driven boat. Well, it's not that the boat's very large, but it's got a large steam plant in it. Passed under the bridge up here, where there's these lovely metal ducts and geese, and fired off his vent, so there was quite a large amount of noise, and then a very quiet boat came by. Don't have a steam engine yet, but wouldn't mind one. Of course, then we'd have to stop at the water points a lot more often, but you know, we do that in every video, so why not? So this is where we met a bit of traffic on Bridge 17. We actually had the right-of-way. He was coming towards us, and we were already partway under the bridge, so he had to back up. Unfortunately, he got jammed into some silt, and we had to pull over to the towpath and hold the boat with a rope for a while he got himself loose and pulled forward.
So we are about to leave Nuneaton and we're heading towards Atherstone, but there's some debate about whether we go up the flight or not, because we're trying to work out when we last did a lock, and it was the lock at Hawkesbury Junction, which is only a stop lock, but it was January. Yeah,
and there's like 11 locks, I think.
So we might not remember how to do locks.
Yeah, and it'll be downhill, so they're typically easier. Because this is from the top lock down, so it shouldn't be too problematic. But I think we might just make it up to the locks tonight.
But that's only like 2 hours.
Well, we'll see. If we make it up there and it's like before noon, I'd say we head down.
Okay.
But let's see where we arrive. We don't even have any of the windlasses or anything. I mean, you know, they're here, but it's like they're not organized and everything, because we haven't seen any locks in forever.
So we're in this lovely mooring spot next to some graffiti and some allotments. After we're moored here, like, we got a message, don't bother mooring in Nuneaton. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. They're like, make sure you stop at Starlight Boats, just past it. Don't more into Neaton. Okay, we're here.
We need more notice about these things. And so the cruise up here from Coventry, we've done that first half so many times now, and we kept getting told off for not mentioning Charity Dock. So we finally took some footage of Charity Dock.
And the problem is, every time I even think about mentioning Charity Dock, I've got this line from like Paradise City by Guns N' Roses in my head, and I'm not going to sing it.
He's been singing it all morning, and it's in my head.
And then it's just stuck in her head, and she's just like swearing at me for getting it stuck in her head. Charity case. Anyway, never mind.
So that was an interesting cruise because, well, I just stayed in the boat, and Michael got rained on.
Rained on a lot. Saw a turtle, possibly alive. And got rained on a lot more.
So yeah, we passed the end of the Oxford, we passed the end of the Ashby, and we're finally in new territory for the first time in forever as well. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was kind of like the moment we passed the end of the Ashby, the rain hit.
Yeah.
And it just didn't let up, and basically didn't let up yesterday, so we more or less just sort of stayed here most of the day.
And it's pretty grey today. God, we're so British. You're so British talking about the weather.
Yes, that's me. So British. It's not a bad spot, actually. I mean, there's a little park over there we can walk the dog, and
it's fine, but we haven't actually barely left the boat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty grey today, but it's not due to rain, so fingers crossed we'll stay dry.
George is a little nervous in the service downstairs. He's kind of freaking out a little bit, but I think once we get him off the boat and he's running along,
he wants to walk. He doesn't want to cruise.
Yeah. And apparently, not far away, just around the corner, is some hills made out of the spoils of and mess of some granite quarries that have been emptied. So there's some strange looking hills up ahead. So hopefully we'll get some shots of that.
Let's go.
Okay, we're on our way. Just another example of another blind corner where somebody else was coming through the bridge. We couldn't see them until the last second. These guys were moving along at a fairly good clip.
I'm sure on this cruise it happened a fair few times that the times we met the boats was actually under the bridges.
Yeah, I think there was like 3 or 4. It's definitely busy, and this stretch does have quite a few bridges at bends, and these road bridges especially that have been put in later tend to sort of block more of the view.
It's not so bad when you've got a straight bit of canal and you can see what's coming and you know whose right of way it is, but when it happens on a bend,
yeah,
it's a lot harder.
Now, when your wife and dog are running along ahead of you and can scream back a boat, it's really helpful. So we came around a bit of a bend, and I saw this sign that said Roman Manchester. Tried to pull over close enough where I could actually see what it said, and then asked Joe to take a photograph of it. It was Boudica's last battle site. Apparently Manchester was it's been here for a very long time. Boudica was leading a bit of a rebellion against Roman rule, and she got into a large battle, and the claim is that it was here at Manchester. A huge number of British died, only a couple of hundred Romans, and Boudica herself may have passed away here, so this might be the last thing. So down there somewhere is Boudica, or Boadicea's last battle site. Michael got very excited when he saw the sign. Lots of traffic on the canal today. Yeah, it's Easter Sunday and we've seen so many boats. We saw our first day boat of the season, our first speeding day boat of the season too. Yeah, we were passed by it. It sort of tried to